Hey everybody, welcome to the Game Maker's Notebook. I'll be your host today. My name is Trent Kusters from League of Geeks. And today I'm speaking to Julian Wilton, the creative director of Massive Monster. Now you may know that name because of their absolute phenomenal smash hit, Cult of the Lamb, which just recently released in August. Just won like 4 awards at the Australian Game Developer Awards. Julian's a pal. We hang out a bunch in Melbourne. And it was really amazing to get the opportunity to sit down with him today for an hour or so and talk about how he got into games, his time as a Newgrounds, like Flash developer and artist, collaborating with folks all over the world, as a literal teenager doing contracts for US companies on Newgrounds and stuff, and then how that led into an eventual move from Sydney to Melbourne to access some government funding and spinning up Massive Monster with his co-founders, and how it eventually led them to their hit, Cult of the Lamb. He speaks about his relationship with Devolver, the pitching process, as well how, somewhat unique for an indie game, they actually started Cult of the Lamb with a focus on a game that would sell and putting marketing first as their, part of the initial concepting phase. And then obviously he speaks about through development and, the success that they've seen. Love the chat with Julian. Really great opportunity to sit down. I think you're going to enjoy it. If you love Cult of the Lamb, it's a really interesting insight into development and how they went about it. So please do enjoy.
You are the mighty lamb in Massive Monster and Devolver Digital's Cult of the Lamb. Saved from sacrifice by the one who waits, you're compelled to repay the dead by creating a cult in their name. So, here's a few tips on how to start your very first cult. Step 1. Grow your flock. Go crusading into the lands of the old faith to find new followers and defeat the false prophets. Back home, indoctrinate your new followers into the cult. Name them, change their form, and learn what makes them unique. Choose your doctrine to set the rules of your cult. Draw power from your followers by giving daily sermons and watch their faith grow. Step 2. Satisfy the faithful. As the mighty lamb, you have to tend to your flock. Lead them, feed them, and build your small community into a thriving woodland cult. Throw a grand feast, shower them with gifts, or maybe marry a follower. Keep your flock happy and your shrines will shine with their devotion. If the needs of your followers are not met, however, they will begin to lose faith. Step 3. Cleanse the non-believers. Unhappy followers will rise against you and try to persuade the others to leave the cult. Will you gently re-educate them in the ways of the Lamb, or perform dark rituals and sacrifice them to the gods? It's up to you what kind of cult leader you become. Starting a cult is no easy ride. You'll scavenge for resources and battle heretics, but righteous victory will be yours. So guide your flock, grow your power, and spread the word of the Lamb.
Hey, Julian. Thank you for joining us here on Game Maker's Notebook.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So awesome to chat to you about this, man. I mean, so for a little bit of context, you're in Melbourne now.
Yes,
you've been in Melbourne for a number of years now. Yeah. And we used to work in the same co-working space, the Arcade in Melbourne, a co-working space for game developers. Both, we got our start sort of with our little studios, hot desk in there. But this is really the first time, I think we've spoken about some random business stuff or dev stuff, but this is the first time we've actually gotten to sit down and dig into things.
Yeah, have a proper chat. Looking forward to it. Yeah, talk some shit.
So let's, as we always do with this podcast, we want to take it right back to the start. How'd you first get into games? Like even just gaming as a thing, and how did that lead to you becoming a game developer and creative director of Massive Monster?
Of course. Well, it all began when, I turned into a bit of a nerd when I was younger, just playing a lot of games.
Kid originally, and then something happened, you fell, hit your head, and all of a sudden you were into video games.
No, I'm a nerd. No, I always loved playing games. I feel like I don't have really too much of a defining moment. I feel like a lot of other people will be like, oh, I played this one game and then I knew I wanted to make games. But from my end, I did kind of fall into it. I played a lot of, I think I was playing like some Sega games early on, and my granddad used to buy them from some guy in the pub, and he would always have new ones for us. So kind of would play those ones, and I loved them. But yeah, I kind of fell into it when I was like playing games online, and I can't remember what the game was, but me and my friend were playing it and could not kind of notice like they had all the source files there, so you could like start playing with the files, and then like they would change in game. And I was like, oh shit, like, whoa, I'm a game developer now. I just bloody changed the sprite in this. So I thought that was really cool. And at the same time I was kind of playing a lot of Flash games on like Newgrounds and Congregate, and just all the Flash portals. And yeah, I was
what age was this, Julian, that you're doing this stuff?
Probably like 15, maybe.
Yeah, okay,
15, 16. So yeah, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna program some games. Started programming, realized, I was just really bad at it. Like,
this is Flash? You're programming
action
scripts
I was in,
and stuff?
I think I tried to jump in some like C or something, like C++, and I was just like, no. Then in ActionScript, couldn't figure it out. So I was like, you know what? I'll do art. That's much easier. Just started doing these art for just like, I'd make these like crappy like reskin games, or just like find a tutorial of like how to make a platformer and kind of make my own platformer game and do all the art.
Do all the sprites,
chuck them on Congregate or something. I'd get like $50 ad revenue, and I'd be like, oh my god, I'm rich.
Here we
15-year-old Julian, I'm rich. I'm just in games for the money. I'm not. Yeah,
that's it. You heard it here. Confirmed. Capitalist.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved that process. Just putting something out there, kind of people would review it and like be like, oh, this is really cool, and like getting a lot of that instant feedback. I was like, whoa, this is great. So I just kind of kept doing it. And I think one of the first kind of contract things I had was some company came up and they're like, oh, do you want to make this kind of point and click? They had this point and click kind of engine in Flash. And they're like, do you want to just make a game out of this and we'll pay you like a few grand? And I was like, oh, damn. So did that for them.
So now let's age check again. So are you still 15, or is this?
I think it might have been like 16 by this point.
Right. So things kind of moving fast for you. Like you're making $50, and all of a sudden you're looking over your shoulder, but it's actually you that they're going to pay a few grand to develop this thing.
I'm like, oh my gosh. Just kind of kept at it, making like weird things. Started finding like Flash Game License as a website, which was like this really amazing place where it was like eBay for Flash games. So you could put your Flash game up there, and like there would be like bidding wars for like sponsors who would put their logo in the game and like a link to their website. So
when you say logo in the game, is this literally like placement in the game, like a billboard in the game, like ad space in the game, or is it like banners top and bottom of the viewport or something?
Yeah, so it's just in the game. It was such a crazy industry, because like just the sheer amount of like views that these Flash games were getting. You know, for 20 grand, if they'll put a splash screen in usually, so that would come up first thing, and then be like a logo in the menu, and then maybe some other times some other little bits, but that's usually what it was. It was a great resource. But kind of through that, I kind of started collaborating with people online, like through Newgrounds, kind of finding other developers, and kind of I'll be like, oh, I'll do the art, you do the programming. So I was kind of doing that a lot with people.
And this is just all through like the Newgrounds sort of forums or whatever you're trying to folks.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of like they have just collab forums and be like, oh, I'm a programmer looking for an artist for my game. This is what I'm thinking. I think I think one of the first bigger ones I did, same thing, where I was kind of like, I'm pretty sure we just reskinned another game. We kind of just copied it, but like, we're like, let's make that game, but with like bees. That was my idea.
Genius. And they were like, creative director, here you go. And they hung metal around your neck, and that's how it started. Yeah.
That's how I've done it so far. I mean, I don't know. There was something nice about those days as well, like where you could you could like look at all these games and be like, oh, how did they do that? And you could like literally, I mean, people probably do it now, but like decompiling the Flash game and just being like, you can see it all and being like, whoa, this is crazy.
That's cool.
So yeah, I did that with some guy. I think I might have been like 18. I was 17 at this point. Sold it for like $18,000 US. I was like, what the hell? Hell yeah. I'm the best. But then
I would think that too if I did.
Yeah, I mean, little 18-year-old me was just, I don't know, very, very confident for some reason.
Did you do like a huge burnout like out the front of the school and like flip the bird?
Yeah. Well, what happened
were you at school at this point in time? It's an interesting thing to be 18 years old at school, 17, be like being handed like thousands of American dollars, which is like millions of Australian dollars basically. And you're studying for your HSCs or whatever your high school equivalencies. How did you reconcile that? Were your parents like tearing their hair out trying to get you to focus on school, or were they like, set the scene up for me in the background?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I didn't really ever put too much attention into school. Like I just go and I never did my homework, so I'd always get in trouble. But like, when HSC rolled around, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to actually like study and, make sure I do the work so I get a good ATAR. But the rest of the time I was like, whatever. But basically,
just for our international listeners, HSC and ATAR are like your high school year 12 end of like, 18-year-old end of sort of, high school equivalency tests and scores and everything. That's what you're all sort of focused on in the last couple. Yeah, how smart you are, essentially. How good you are at sitting tests.
I think it was just a matter of like, I was really enjoying it. So I was spending a lot of my spare time doing it. So I feel like it didn't come in the way too much. But yeah, I did that game called Angry Bees, and bloody PayPal locked my account because I was under 18. And they were like, we're not going to give you the money because you're under 18. We'll give it to you when you turn 18. I'm like, what the? Like, usually they would just like,
you were like a PayPal trust fund baby.
Yeah. But it was kind of messed up because like half of the money I owed to the guy that did the programming, and I think like Flash game license took like 15%. So I was like, oh yeah, sorry, you'll have your 10 grand in like, 9 months or whatever. So yeah, bit of a
which was not the terms on their invoice, I'm sure.
Yeah. But it made a good birthday at least. And yeah, it was fun kind of having a bit of money and having a job early on as well, but all your friends would like ask you to buy them stuff, and you're like, oh, can you get me a Chucky milk for at lunch or something? Like, bro, come on, like.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the scabbing for cash for lunch, definitely. You became prime target.
Yeah, chicken burger. Yeah, but so fair enough.
Talking about, so you're doing art for all of these games. Now, you mentioned that you're like, art is easier than programming, as you decided, right? At that point in time, you're like, let's give it a shot. Were you a kid that was drawing and stuff anyway already, or was that like your first time sort of interfacing with like sitting down and trying to make decent art? And were you developing, I guess you're developing as an artist along the way, right, too?
Yeah, so I don't know, I've always had like a lot of creativity, I think, and I would kind of doodle a lot in school and just like draw random stuff, but I don't think I was ever drawing anything like artistic. Like I was just drawing like random stuff, like just bad doodles. So yeah, I don't know, kind of fell into it. But yeah, when I started doing it, like I really enjoyed the process of just creating stuff and just drawing things and kind of creating these worlds. I don't know, I'm still to this day, I'm like, as an artist, I can't just sit down and draw for like 12 hours like some people, but I just really love that process of coming up with ideas and kind of setting a style for something. But yeah, it kind of led my trajectory a bit. Like I think for my final assignment for like art or something, I did this. I kind of did a game, which again, if you're following the themes, was a reskin of something else. And then this like print. And that was really cool. It kind of got into like Art Express, which is kind of like where they picked like some of the interesting artworks that students have made for final high school. And yeah, I feel like with that kind of set me up, and I decided to do like a graphic design degree after that as well.
Dope. Cool.
Yeah, but I think
so. You did actually go to like university / college after. After that.
Yeah. I didn't want to do like game stuff just because I thought like, oh, you know, like Flash games going great now, but what if they die?
Yeah, imagine that.
Which,
like, imagine if that whole industry of Flash games just died.
But yeah, I think
good on you.
I might have skipped. I feel like I might have skipped to one point, but I think what even is it? 2022. About I think like 10 years ago as well. Which probably when I was finishing high school, I made another game called Super Adventure Pals. And that was kind of like my biggest Flash game I did, and that was with a guy called like Jay Armstrong. And I think that started out just because he was like, I think I might have put a post on Newgrounds, and I kind of draw in this like thing of like a giraffe and a kid and a pet rock. And he saw it and kind of was like, "Oh, this looks sick,
man."
Yeah. Well, he kind of done a bit of art as well, and like I actually thought his art on his game looked really cool, and like his style. He made one called like Kit and the Octopod, which was kind of similar. You basically were a kid and had this like pet, so like he probably was like, "Wow, this idea is so good." But you know, it was very similar to his, so I don't know. But yeah, we made that, and yeah, that was 10 years ago or something, and yeah, we're still working together now. Kind of.
Was that when did Massive So this is Jay, one of your co-founders, right?
Yeah.
And so when did Because there's three of you? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Three directors.
So when did Massive Monster? When did Jimp get pulled into the fray?
Yeah, so I mean, the whole kind of company is kind of, it's a bit confusing, the kind of origin stories of it, because basically, you know, Flash games are dying and we're looking to like pivot. Meanwhile, there's this other company where they're kind of in a similar position, and they had worked on desktop and console games before though. So Jay and Jimp kind of partnered up with them to create the original kind of Massive Monster. And they started kind of working together. But I think quickly they found out they weren't really gelling too well. I think the other problem was that at the same time, Jay and I were working on the Adventure Pals while they kind of weren't working on it.
And this is not is this the Flash version of Adventure Pals? Or is
this is the console? Like, yeah.
Console
so
one,
yeah, we had originally developed like a Flash game for like Super Adventure Pals 2, but this was the time that like Flash is kind of dying. So we're like, all right, let's kind of pitch this as a desktop console thing, and kind of go from there.
In Unity?
It was in Hacks OpenFL. It exported through Unity, so we did win some Unity awards. Amazing. So I gotta, you know, say that. But no, so Hacks you could also publish to Flash. So it was our way of kind of like, oh, we'll suss our desktop console, but if we want to publish it in Flash, we still can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we never did that though because I don't think it works properly. Yeah, it was a whole. Well, yeah. The thing is, the other people that were coming into the company, they kind of brought in with them this Hacks OpenFL kind of bit of a platforming engine and framework that they had. So it was kind of like, all right, we can kind of use this and make a platformer game because they had made one previously with it. So yeah, kind of me and Jay were working on that. The other guys, kind of weren't blending too well. I think they ended up splitting up. And then meanwhile, kind of I'm working on Adventure Pals with Jay, and Jimp's I think he's just kind of doing a bunch of things, but he also starts working on Never Give Up, which is like basically Armor Games, with a kind of publisher on the Adventure Pals. And at the same time, for some reason, they thought it'd be a good idea to kind of get us on another game called Never Give Up, which is like a hardcore platformer. It was based on a Flash game, and it was kind of their IP. But they said like, oh, come in and you're already making a platformer game. Make another one while you're at it.
Yeah, what's two? Like, you know.
I know it's your first desktop console game, but you know, it's fine. You'll figure it out. Yeah, so I don't know who was producing but
they were right, I'm sure, right? Did you figure it out? Did it like?
Well, Jay probably just like killed himself doing it, but so I luckily I didn't have to work on it. So it was Jay and Jimp were working on Never Give Up, and I was working on Adventure Pals, and Jay was also working on that. So yeah, we were all just kind of working away. But yeah, Adventure Pals was the like first one to get out. I think I don't even know how long ago that was, but Yeah. But yeah, it was like we had no
Maybe
idea
like
what we were
5 years
doing.
ago or something like that. What was
Yeah.
that, like 2016,
Yeah.
2017?
I think, yeah, I was still at uni at the time as well. So
Okay.
meanwhile, I'm doing like my design degree, and I think I kind of finished it off about the same time I finished my degree.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You
so
madman. That's amazing. Okay.
yeah, well, it took like 4 years to kind of get done. So like,
Yeah.
I think that because I was doing uni at the same time. Meanwhile, so like we were kind of part time on it, and that's meant that like, yeah, Jay could also work on this other game because like I was kind of slow, so he could kind of spend time on this other game as well.
Yeah, right. In the downtime, how was
Yeah.
the switch like? So just look, you're focusing on that time now, and you know it's your first sort of switch with Super Adventure Pals from Flash into this hacks engine, and are now developing for consoles and everything. Was it pretty much like, you know, games are games, like you're just putting it on a console and there's the weird console shit you got to deal with? Or was it like, what was the jump like from, you know, that, because, you know, it's a story that we've heard so often where it's like, you know, folks on Flash are like, you know, fleeing this you know, this sinking ship, and you know, some of them successfully made that switch to console or PC. How did you find that switch? How did you and the team go?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point as well with like other developers, because you definitely did see it, like where the other developers were going. Like a lot of them went mobile or like down other routes. For us, yeah, I think it was like luckily we kind of again like naturally fell into it because Armor Games, they basically were a Flash game portal, so they're kind of like, oh, you know, our business is kind of dying. Maybe we need to get into desktop console games as well. So it was kind of like a trust between us and their kind of like CEO at the time or owner.
John?
Yeah. No, it was Dan McNeely. So John, I think John was maybe working there at the time as well.
Yeah, cool.
But he was kind of like, I don't know. Honestly, the pitch we sent him, he should not have funded it. But yeah,
he saw the twinkle in your eye. He knew. There's something behind
Like
the pitch, Julian.
He would be the guy that, you know, he would just send through the money. He would send no contracts. It would just be like, here's your money. You know, there was all he would just put a lot of trust in people. So he kind of gave us the trust. And I feel like other developers might have had a harder time because they kind of, to break into it, like they don't know anything about it, where we're kind of working with someone that also didn't know anything about it. So we could kind of both learn together. But yeah, in terms of like design and stuff, I think, it's just like that different quality level. Like on Flash games, you could just kind of pump out something quick and like you wouldn't worry too much if the levels sucked. You'd be like, whatever. But on this, it's like we redid the levels like 3 times or something just because like, this is not good. But yeah, the core design of it, I guess, was kind of simple because it's just a platformer game. So luckily, I think it was a nice entry point into kind of like doing desktop console games. Although by that point, I feel like people, you know, they're like, oh, another platformer game. Oh, goody.
Yeah,
like,
right, okay.
Yeah. But, you know, we still had a little something. So I think that was all right. Like, I think by the time Never Give Up came out, that was like, no one cares.
So what was after that? Was it Boomerang Fu or?
Oh yeah. So God, when? Sorry, I feel like my timelines. What even's time? I don't remember anything at this point.
Yeah, who knows? Everything BC before Corona is like that's all conjecture.
Oh my God. So yeah, I think. God,
because how did it before, like Super Adventure Pals, what did it do for you? And you've come together, it's your first thing, a sort of massive monster, right? Like, how did that sort of set you up for the next experience? You know, like if we're using these things as stepping stones, did it commercially set you up, like financially, or did it commercially set you up strategically in regards to the partnerships or relationships that you had, or were you out there, you know, where you kind of like, did it fall flat and you're sort of like strap cash broke and, you know, burn all your bridges and you're at step one again? Sort of where were you after that?
I think it did. Adventure Pals did pretty, like for our first game, we were like, hell yeah. Like we think it went like pretty well, but it was like a modest success. Like I think, probably made like, I think to date it's probably made over $1 million or something, but like, first game, it was really kind of cheap to make, not cheap to make, because there's a lot of, us just not paying ourselves to work on it.
Well, not bad for a uni side project, Julian.
True. But we kind of did that, and it kind of, it really like set things up really well. I'd kind of finished it off a bit earlier, I think, before I finished uni. So I was kind of finishing it off. Like I'd done most of the art for it, so we're pretty good. So I was finishing off uni stuff, and that I was kind of done with Adventure Pals. I think at the same time I was kind of exploring, I wanted to kind of make my own game as well. I want to make my own game, and then I want to like explore other stuff as well. So I think while the other guys were on Never Give Up. So yeah, I kind of met Paul at a Beer and Pixels, which is like a Sydney meetup for like game developers as part of the IDGA. I saw it. Yeah. Paul Kopetko. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, for our listeners,
yeah. So yeah, and he was he basically had this little game where you're all these squares and you throw boomerangs at each other, and I just saw it and I was like, oh man, I gotta do art for this game. Even though he wanted to make it like a 3D game, I was like, I have no idea how to do 3D, but I'll kind of do mock-ups of everything. I'll draw the characters. I'll do as much as I can. I've just put out, we've just kind of got Adventure Pals done. So I feel like I know a couple things about like doing a desktop console game now, which this was like Paul's first desktop console game. So I was trying to provide like, I'll help you with the art.
A little bit of that experience. Yeah,
kind of bring that to the table as well. Kind of maybe help with publishers or anything else that you might want and advice.
I want to add a little bit of context here as well, because it's going to be important to something that I'll ask you a little bit later, which is you're in Sydney at this point, right?
Yeah.
You're living in Sydney. Yeah. Did you grow up in Sydney?
Yeah, so I was from the Blue Mountains in Sydney.
Beautiful, amazing, stunning part of the world.
Good place to be on a computer all day. So
no, you don't want to go outside around there. So, all right, great. So you're in Sydney, and this Beer and Pixels, again, for our international listeners, it's an IGDA Sydney event, right? The community puts together where people come together and they actually just play each other's games and demo stuff.
Yeah.
It's quite successful in Sydney. It's been running for a number of years.
Yeah. So that was great. Started working on that, and then started working on my own game just to learn programming, because I was like, it's time I go back. It's time I actually learn how to do it. I was quite interested. I picked up like Playmaker and stuff. Started playing around with ideas. I was using like Stencil before that, which is very very that could also export to Flash, so I was like, hell yeah. But it was
Julian one requirement.
does export to Flash. But so I kind of enjoyed that process and kind of try to learn Unity as well, because we've never used it. I kind of started doing Unicycle Giraffe and kind of put that out as my final uni project. And I don't know where Boomerang Fu was in Adventure Pals at that time, but I think they were kind of probably getting there. I think Boomerang Fu probably spent another year on after uni.
So you're kind of working on a few projects like alongside each other, I'm getting the feeling.
Yeah, I just take on too much. That's my classic me. So I was just, say yes to everything. And then just, struggling, night before assignments due, just work until 3 a.m., get them done, or taking the 10% lateness, like whatever.
Yeah, that's the demerits. That's because you're in your early 20s at this point, I imagine. You got the fuel to burn and the naivety to do so.
I've learned my lessons.
As we all do. Absolutely. Okay, so Boomerang Fu drops. I remember seeing you you were showing it at PAX. You showed it around the place a bit. That would have been like 2018 as well.
I think. Yeah, it must have been around then.
Earlier?
I don't know, but I kind of
Google
took it
when
over
your game released.
Oh no, I should probably know this stuff.
No, you're not meant to know this. That's the rules. Yeah.
I feel like as soon as I get a game
Steam,
out,
2020, August 13 on Steam. There you go.
Oh, nice. For Boomy Fu.
Cool.
Yeah, it must be.
Boomy Fu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Still, love it. Such a good game. If you haven't played it, check it out. Yeah.
It is. It's dope. It's really, really, really cute. It's really cool. Yeah. All right. So now what's happening? When did paint me a picture of we're here now, sort of where did actually no, before we get to Cult of the Lamb, because I was going to ask where is Cult of the Lamb through the telescope here? Is it happening? Is it not? Tell me about the move to Melbourne. because you made a very this is something that one of the first, so I knew of you. I think we had met briefly, or maybe not, maybe I just knew of you working in Sydney and the stuff that you were doing, and then I heard that you were moving to Melbourne for a very specific reason. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, actually, this it comes together with the plans for Cult of the Lamb, although we didn't know what it was then. Basically, I'd kind of finished these other games. Jimp and Jay had just finished stuff like Never Give Up, and it was time for our like next project. And on this one, our plan was that we're all going to work together. Jay, Jimp, and myself. 3 people on a game. That's gonna be great.
But that's fucking crazy, dude. You settle down, okay? There's an age rating on this podcast.
And then but like I was like, guys, I love Melbourne, and they got free money there, so I'm gonna go move to Melbourne, and I'll try get some free money for us. Right. So but it wasn't just that. Like the developer community here, like you have things like the arcade that was here at the time. From an outside view, when you're in Sydney and you don't really get much interaction with game stuff, it's very exciting, and you're like, whoa, it's all Melbourne's place to be. Kind of just put the bill.
That free money, I think, just some context for folks. So Melbourne, there's a funding body, a government funding body from the state of Victoria, which is the state that the city of Melbourne is in, and they're called Vic Screen. They used to be called Film Victoria, but they're called Vic Screen, and they've been funding games for over 30 years. So 3 decades of funding games, and their slate is amazing in regards to like, Untitled Goose Game, Cult of the Lamb, like there's a bunch of stuff that has come out of Melbourne through Vic Screen's funding program. And so to be able to get access to that funding, you actually need to be headquartered or have some kind of development base in Melbourne. And so Julian strategically made the decision to relocate his entire life from Sydney, 10 hours south by car, a couple hours on the plane, to Melbourne, to actually be able to access these grants. And you can get up to, I think it's like $350K now or something.
Yeah, it's really big now.
There's marketing grants and everything, and it's a straight up grant as well. So it literally is free money in the sense that you just need a credit Vic Screen, in your credits. And obviously like ship the thing too. So, and so you got access to that. And so so you've come to Melbourne, and as you mentioned, the arcade, we spoke about at the start of the podcast. I remember you coming into the arcade. So we had a space at League of Geeks, because when we first went into a studio space, we were hot desking at the arcade. There was like 3 or 4 of us there. We did that for months before the Kickstarter for Armello went off, and then we moved into a space. And then obviously after Armello, we expanded and stuff. And I remember we were on level 2, and you'd come into a hot desk there. So you were hot desk, you moved to Melbourne, you did the full indie Melbourne send, where you've come to Melbourne, you've like applied for funding, you're hot desking at the arcade, you just immersed yourself in it. And so what was that like coming into, that sort of new community, and how did that funding sort of help set you up?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Like, it was great just coming to Melbourne as well, where there's these other big kind of indie developers, like even kind of, like the guys that made Crawl, just kind of being in the same office and being like, oh, whoa, you made this really big, successful game. And even, you, talking to you and a few other of the developers being like, oh, wow, this is, it kind of makes it feel more achievable as well if you're around kind of peers that are doing the things that you want to do. And being like, whoa, I can get this going. It's one of those things. I remember
once I went to grab a coffee, and I bumped into Chris Wright, a fellow traveler, and he told me something about a Steam page setting or something, and it like resulted in us making 20 more grand like that month or something. And I was like, I just made 20 grand by going to grab a coffee, because I bumped into someone, and like we just happened to talk about Steam, and it's like, oh, we've done this stuff. It's unfortunate the arcade's not around. It didn't survive COVID, and the lockdowns we had here in Melbourne. But it was a really special environment where you come to Melbourne, then all of a sudden you're going to lunch with the Crawl devs, or the crew at Samurai Punk, or whatever it might be. It's you learn a lot really fast, and by accident almost some of the time.
I think a lot of the time. It's just being around those peeps. Really, really energizing. I feel like it was, it's always hard moving to a new state, but it also meant that I can kind of funnel that community to make some friends and kind of, give myself a fun life over here. It was good. I think, kind of, as I set up, we kind of started trying to think of ideas and develop concepts. You actually kind of need at the time you needed a company in Victoria for at least 6 months or something. So we couldn't apply straight away. So I think we were kind of working on a prototype. We were trying out ideas. I think we kind of started getting on this like cult idea after like failing. We had all these other ideas that we were like trying out, but they just kind of, they were a bit too complicated. So one was like, you're on the back of a flying whale, you go around and kind of dive down and then like get resources, bring it back to community. Another one is like you're running a hell, but then it was too like it felt too mean, like
like a dungeon keeper sort of thing. Almost,
yeah. But I feel like that one could have worked, but
too mean. That's so
because if you have a hell, you need to torture people, and that's kind of like the currency that could be used. But like, you know, we got the little dudes that it's like time to draw like the torture device. Like, this is not right. This is not like the tone we're after. You didn't even
finish it. It just gave you the ick while drawing it. You're like, nah, this ain't it.
We messed up. So yeah, because it's basically the other. All of this as well was kind of from the other guys. Because they had released Never Give Up, it was quite a flop. So, and we knew on Adventure Pals, like it was okay, it was a modest success, but it wasn't really a hit. So we kind of knew on this one, we knew on this one we really wanted to like actually make sure we're like considering the marketing and how we're selling it and how we talk about it, so we can just make our lives easier as well. Just from doing like, I ended up showing Adventure Pals like, you know, all around the world, and you'd have to talk about the game. And I quickly learned like that,
you're doing it on hard mode.
Explaining Adventure Pals. I'm like, I mean, it's it's a platformer game about having a giraffe and a pet rock, but like that's, you know, if that's the biggest sell, like, you know, it's it's fun, but it's like,
you're waiting for the next line. You're like, okay, I'm listening, but I'm not buying the game just yet. So what did that mean for you? Like in regards to the inception of Cult of the Lamb, like it's incredible that you're like, okay, let's go marketing focused from the start, you know, like let's make sure that that's in there. How did that change? How did that lens switch the creative process, or what elements were you like looking for, or how did that process go down?
I mean, I feel like it's quite, after doing, you know, my design degree and doing a lot of graphic design work, I feel like it's more, it's probably a way I kind of prefer working, because it's like, you're kind of coming up with what you want it to be and how you're going to talk about it. And then you can kind of work backwards from there. So it can kind of write itself a bit. You're kind of fleshing it out just through words and through sentences without having to do like all these annoying prototypes and stuff. So it was quite a process, like trying to figure that out. I think the biggest thing was trying to make sure we're all on the same page of what the idea was, especially we're all working remotely still at this point, just over Slack being like, here's my idea. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? Marketing? What? Nah, I'm joking. I really enjoyed the process of doing it that way. And basic thing would be like, come up with the store page on Steam before we even have the game. Like, what's that going to look like? What's the description going to look like? And I think like even what that work we did then, like the game hadn't changed heaps from that point. But it kind of meant as well, we're doing a lot of this stuff at the same time. And it's like, all right, now we can actually put it in practice, because we have to like pitch the game to Film Vic or Vic Screen now, where we're like, basically at that point, we kind of started to run out of money on this prototype we were working on. We knew there was kind of something there and it was starting to work, but we kind of just needed a bit more money for the other guys to like, be able to keep living and pay the bills. We kind of pitched it with the idea of like, we just want a little bit of funding to kind of help us polish up this demo so we can pitch it to publishers and kind of, go from there. I think that like sell to Vic Screens, like it's very compelling, because it's like, we've got our plan. We just kind of need a bit of help to get there. And at that point as well, kind of, utilizing all this marketing stuff, trying to sell it was a really good way to kind of practice selling it to a publisher. So anything they're questioning us about, we can be like, okay, cool, let's refine this. Let's double down on that if they like this.
And what was that high level pitch that you had at this point in time? By the time you went to Vic Screen, like how close was it to Cult of the Lamb? Were you like, you're a lamb, you run a cult, it's a roguelite through dungeons, or was it kind of like, what did you end up with at the end of that marketing process?
Well, it was called Sacrificial Lamb at the time. We're still like tentative title. We hadn't decided on it yet, but I think it was pretty, like, the whole premise was still like, you start a cult. You start a cult, and then we have the two gameplay genres that we're mushing together. So that's like, that was what the game was.
And it was the core. You were on it. Like, you hit the mark like, from the start. Cool.
Yeah, so it didn't actually change too much. I think just some of the like specifics about how the dungeon crawling would work. We thought like, originally we had all these other ideas of how it might work, but we kind of ended up with just more like bite-sized little adventures. So just kind of figuring out the scope of each side was like the main kind of thing that maybe changed. But yeah, it was pretty, it kind of stayed on track, I think. But it was really hard to like force, we're trying to force this prototype into this like idea we have. And like, there was a lot of struggle trying to, all right, how do we actually make this a game about a cult? Like, what does that mean? Like, so
you're like, we can sell it, but can we make it?
Yeah, no, honestly, even like, I was like, oh, we kind of need to tick these boxes, like, or we're not fulfilling that player fantasy. And even like in the trailers and stuff, I'm like, oh, we really need like, we need to show some rituals. We need to show these things. We hadn't even had rituals in the game yet. We didn't even know like how they worked.
give me the top three that you were talking about at the time. Like, when you and the guys are talking and you're like, we need these things for it to be cult. Like, what are the top three? You got rituals. What else? What's rituals, Julian's top three to make a cult game?
I mean, the main thing is the followers. You need followers. Of course, you need to be able to do sermons. We did really wanted like a doctrine or like a set of beliefs. I think, and then kind of some way to like exploit them. So it's kind of,
of course, set all that up and then like, pull the rug out from under your followers. Of course. I love it. Right.
Yeah. Okay. But even just a few things to communicate that, because it was a cult, but then it's also like an occult cult. So we need to communicate that, there's like these darker rituals you can do, and you can do more messed up things. I think there was some.
So you get that together, right? You've got your pitch. You go to Vic Screen. Obviously, you get funding, right? Spoilers. You get funding from Vic Screen. Did you? And now I know for a fact that you had Devolver in mind from the start, right? So did you know this going into Vic Screen? Had you already spoken to Devolver? Because I actually read an article just yesterday, and I read that one of you, I don't know if it was Jay or Jimp or who, but like one of you just guessed a Devolver email as well and just fired it off, right? So tell me about how you spun. Yeah, right. Okay. So tell me about how you all brought Devolver into your cult, essentially.
I mean, we kind of, part of the marketing and kind of part of trying to come up with the idea was also thinking, all right, well, who would be a good publisher for the game? So kind of as we were kind of making it, we always thought like Devolver would be good. We did have in our back pocket, because we just worked with Armor Games on like 2 games. We thought they're probably going to be interested in anything we do. So we kind of got that in like, writing or something to help us with our pitch as well.
You had that safety. You felt like you had a safety if
we had
Devolver or someone didn't come through.
Yeah, we were a bit like concerned from the start as well, of just like, all right, we are going quite dark. Is this going to be something that like, a government agency is going to want to pick up in their funding? Not knowing how they're going to respond to it at that point. And I feel like we probably made it a bit lighter, for the lighter version for them. But yeah, as we,
clever. I'm liking the 4D chess of Julian business brain that's coming through. Yeah,
that's it. I'm the business boy. But so what was I talking about? I forget.
Devolver.
Yes. So we started pitching out to publishers. We always had like Devolver in mind, but it was weird where like for the first time when we're pitching out to publishers, like everyone's actually replying to us, and like most people are actually keen and want to get a deal going. But as soon as we kind of had a reply from Devolver, they were kind of like, yeah, I'm in, let's do it. And we're just like, okay. Like they kind
just
of
like
were,
straight off the bat, they were like, let's go.
Yeah. So like a lot of the other people we're talking to, they were kind of like, oh, you talk to our marketing people, talk to these people, like, we got to do some due diligence on you guys. And we're kind of like, we have no idea.
You're like, oh, we're not going to survive that. That's bad.
Yeah,
We can't have that happen. Yeah.
We got to go. Do not look into us. Yeah. But yeah, I think kind of also having like two desktop console games, like kind of did show, that really helped as well. And then just being able to actually have
ship.
Yeah, we know how to. Yeah, we've done it. We've done it twice. Third time's charm.
And in rapid succession as well. Like they know, like they're looking at you, and like they can de-risk that element of it, right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think that's always a big risk for a publisher. But yeah, I think they were just keen. They were like, let's do it. Got it done. We had a publishing agreement in a couple of weeks. And money coming through. So and we kind of at the point as well. We actually did need a deal relatively quickly. Just because like the bills were starting to stack up for the other guys. So we're like, yeah, we'll take it. And, they're just, even their terms, when we first started talking to them, they were kind of like, oh, you guys are going to need more money to make this. Because unlike Adventure Pals, we were kind of like, we'll just like do it for the cheapest possible we can do it. And like, that was like $200K total budget for that game for everything. And then on this game, we're like, all right, let's ask for a bit more. But I think we're asking for like 300K.
You're like 210K. Let's
yeah,
say 300K, right?
Yeah. So they're like, they're like, no. And that was like with marketing and everything. And they're like, so yeah, it definitely, I think we added on like couple 100K, and then made sure we kind of put in some back end as well to support the game in case it wasn't a huge hit straight away or something. So yeah, definitely learned a few lessons, but they helped it. Like they could kind of recognize like, let's help you along with this. Like we'll give you what you actually need to make it. And it was pretty spot on.
So they saw the potential there as well, and like we're happy to give you that guidance or mentorship in particular areas, even if it meant outlaying more cash for you or ensuring that success. Yeah,
which is
amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I think even while the other publishers we were talking to, they were trying to like get us to do it for less, and like then we have them on the other hand, they're like we'll put more into it. So we're like it seems pretty obvious.
Seems cool. And that was your target as well. Okay, so this is early, right? So you've got a prototype, you've pitched a Vic screen. Was the Vic screen funding confirmed by the time you went to Devolver as well?
Yeah. So basically
so
we took. Oh, sorry. So we did film Vic, and then I think it was only like 40K or something. But basically, man, we worked on it for a few more months, and then at the end of that time, part of the acquittal was kind of like we'll push it out now. Because basically, like we even just got a few things like Half Giant, who did all our animations. Like I was like, oh guys, like we're trying to do this. We want to make this game, but we have like no money at the moment. Can you just do this like cool animation of the lamb spinning around or something, like really cheap? I think they did it for like $1,000 or something. Which like now, they're like, no, but they did us a solid.
Yeah, they were like, that's a once off. You used your coupon. Yeah. But so just worth giving them another shout out because it's such a huge integral part of your marketing, and they did so many rad trailers. That's the crew, Half Giant, with the crew behind all of your amazing animated trailers.
Yeah, they did so good. But like I think even just having that little bit of animation to put in our like trailers for like for pitching, like just up that level so much, and you could kind of see like where you could push the kind of marketing going forward as well, kind of relying more on that stuff.
So for everyone listening, and especially like aspiring indie developers or even commercial ones out there right now, like what did your pitch materials consist of? You just said a trailer. I imagine what stage was the prototype at as well?
Yeah, so it was kind of, I think we were calling it a vertical slice, but it definitely wasn't a vertical slice. Like, it was just like, I mean, it was fairly polished demo. I think we'd also like shown it off at like PAX before this time as well, just to
okay, cool.
Yeah, we hadn't like we actually didn't we didn't kind of talk to press about like press be like, what's this? And we're like, oh no, we're not talking about it. But we were basically just getting, seeing what people liked about it, getting some testing. So it was kind of quite tested, had a bit of polish. We made sure players could pick it up and play it fairly easy. So we had that demo. I think it was you basically like, there was an intro, you could go to the dungeon, you could go to the base, and like that loop was there of like getting stuff, bringing followers back, building some stuff, going out. So it was pretty, it was probably a fairly decent demo.
And what are we talking? Are we like 9 months, a year into dev from like conceptualizing it to this point? Or?
Yeah, probably, I reckon. Maybe even longer, because it was quite part-time. Like, I think Jay would be just working on this little prototype, and then we'd be like, oh, this is cool, but we don't have time to work on it yet. So, yeah, it does take a while. And that's, again, why I was like, oh, shit, we need to, like, add in time at the end of our project so we have enough, like, money and time to, like, work on our next game if this one doesn't end up being too good. So yeah, lessons learned.
So let's leap forward, right? So you've signed with Devolver now, you're on board. What are sort of like, when you think back to development, because how much longer, what, you're in dev for another 2 years or something maybe after that?
Yeah, I think initially it was for 2 years. I think it got pushed back a bit. I think we're a few months late, and then it made more sense to release later. So
yeah, okay.
I think 3 years. Yeah.
So what are the big moments that you sort of remember through dev? Like whether they be challenges or whether they be like big wins or like, you know, points, you know, with Devolver, either like, stress points with Devolver or platforms or, you know, big wins together, or what sticks out in your mind?
I mean, it was just a lot of struggle. It was just like, I don't know, every milestone we were just working towards, like, it's hard when you kind of work on like a systems-based game, two games at once, because you're kind of working on all this stuff, and you always have in the back of your mind like, oh, I hope this is gonna work out, this is gonna be awesome, but you know, and you deliver your milestone, but then you're kind of like, is that really working? Is it working? So just constantly like iterating on like mechanics. I think I think at one point, maybe like 6 months before launch, we're like, oh shit, all right, this is like, it's good, it's working, it's thank goodness. I
love that, but like that magical moment, like
like, oh my god, so I think it's working. So like, but there was quite a few good points. I think kind of building up the followers, like, it's really cool to kind of get them going and kind of figuring out that the dungeon structure. You know, just getting those initial structures in place is so good, because once you've got them, you're like, all right, cool, now just need to rinse and repeat this for the other dungeons. And, you know, we've kind of got the basic layout. I think, we kind of had an alpha. I think we had an alpha that was like, okay. And then we had a beta, but it wasn't really the beta. It was more like an alpha. And then we had like I think we had like 3 different beta milestones, because we just kept delivering it, being like, this isn't really the beta. Or maybe it was like Gold Master. We'd just be like, this is Gold Master milestone, but it's not really Gold Master milestone. But they were, they were really good. It was kind of weird. I was kind of expecting them to kind of be a bit more hands-on, but turns out they're very hands-off. Like if you ever need help, you can ask for it, but they're kind of like, they didn't really give any feedback. I think they just trusted,
like, do your thing.
Yeah, they just trusted we'll figure it out, which is a bit it's a bit random. We're like, how do they keep pushing out all these great games if they're not even like giving any like feedback to developers?
You might have had the game where they didn't need to as well, right? Like,
well, there was definitely issues with it, but I think they had just like, they got time, you know, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, cool.
And luckily we did, but so it was interesting with that, but they were kind of great the whole time. And I think we were late on a few milestones, or they weren't really where they need to be, and we could just easily push it back, no problems. I think the biggest thing that kind of biggest thing that was quite more to deal with was basically they were kind of originally our plan was just like Switch and desktop, you know, just to keep it like, you know, we're still kind of, I think our team wasn't that big still at that point. We like got some contractors on, but it was primarily still like the three of us, plus some contractor work. And we're like, what the hell? So like they're like, all right, let's do every platform. And we're like, oh my God. So now we're going from
like
there's
chill.
two consoles to all of them. So that's kind of pushed back timelines as well, but you know, I think
did you have a porting partner, or did you do the dev?
We had
cool.
We had porting partner. Like it's still quite a bit on our
still,
end, but like
still, exactly.
Just sheer amount of bugs and everything. You're like, oh my God, but pretty decent otherwise. I think the main things was that difficulty early on with like what is the actual concept, what is this game, and then just trying to actually make it fit in that door of like, all right, you're a game about a cult, get in there.
That's we figured out how to sell it. Now we just need to like actually make that thing.
Yeah.
So talking is like taking that specifically and diving forward. When now talking of pals at Devolver and at the various platforms that you published on, people there at those places knew that this game was going to be a success before it released. Right. And I remember a very specific point where I posted on Slack to my business partners, Blake and Ty, and I was like, yo, Cult of the Lamb's about to do something wild. And it was, I think it was about a month out. I was like, I think it's gonna go stratospheric. So when was the first moment that you, we talk about you, man. We talk about
I love it.
But like, when was the first moment that you and Jay and Jim had got an idea that you had not just like a success, but a big success on your hands?
I mean, it was always hard like early on because we announced it. We did the announcement at Gamescom, and that had like really good traction, a good amount of views, and like a lot of engagement. But it's kind of hard to like kind of visualize what that meant in terms of sales, and especially working with Devolver, and like now we're working on a game where like you're talking about like millions of dollars in recoup because like you're spending so much on marketing and stuff, and you get a bit like, oh no, like I'm sure this is gonna sell some units, but like
is it gonna sell that many?
Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of, we always knew it was probably gonna do all right, but then like I think as soon as we kind of opened up pre-orders and stuff, and we actually started seeing some sales numbers, we're like, oh shit. And then we're getting up in the like the wish list. Yeah, getting up in the wish list, and kind of I think when we kind of released it slightly early on like Twitch or something, or it was like locked off to certain content, but it was going really well on Twitch as well and getting a lot of engagement, and I think because we had this Twitch integration as well, which was really helping. So we knew from like Twitch side of things as well, like it's going really well on there. So if other kind of platforms can pick it up, other kind of media and stuff should be good. And it was just very, it was weird where like a lot of people knew about it, and just kind of weird working on a game where like you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm working on this, and people are like, what?
And they're what is a surprise, not what is that game that you just mentioned.
Exactly.
The saturation was huge. Like it had some sort of like cultural cut through that like very few games achieve. How much do you think, and like I have an answer to this, but I'm not you. How much do you think that decision very early on to try and like to first of all design a game that you can sell before you design a game that you can make or you want to make, like how much do you think that led to your success at the end of the day with Cult of the Lamb? Is it like literally the thing, or
I think there's two parts of it, because that initial prototype was that like mushing two genres together and basically kind of taking these genres that like were quite hot at the time. So like, roguelike dungeon crawlers and kind of like these base building games, colony sims, they're both quite big. So like just getting both of them and putting them into one new thing, that in itself is already like hitting a pretty good beat and getting a wide audience. But then kind of attaching the cult idea to it just kind of took it to the next level, I think. So, and I think that prototype, I think the prototype probably was a response from our other games of like not doing super well. So trying to aim for something that one of these genres that are doing really well at the moment, even if it wasn't like explicitly made into like a business plan.
Yeah. Well, Julian, it's just like from like literally being in like our studio being 10 meters away from you, and seeing this thing, to seeing you on the packed show floor, to like hearing about the amazing work that you're doing through, like I said, pals at like the platforms or, Devolver and stuff. It's been so inspiring to watch the work that the three of you have been doing, along with, obviously all the crew that you brought along the way, your contractors and Half Giant and other folks. It's really quite phenomenal what you've all achieved. And I mean, the game, like the game has sold, 1 million copies in its first week or something like that, right? So it's obviously a commercial success, but critically too. Like the game fucking slaps, dude. It's really good. It's amazing. I played it. You saw me do my big 45K world tour pimping, Solemn Infernum recently, and all I was doing on all those flights was playing Cult of the Lamb.
Oh, really?
So,
that's sick.
I did have one moment where I logged back onto my Switch and I must have not put it to sleep properly or whatever, and all of my cult was dead. I was like, oh no, I felt so bad. But man, I had such a great time playing the game, and congrats to you and your team on all of. And I want to stress not just your commercial success, but like the execution on this title and what you've done with Massive Monster, and it's really quite impressive. So,
well,
great work,
thanks, man. I really appreciate that, and it's been great, having studios like yours around as well, where we can kind of look at and be like, all right, this is, you guys, you're killing it as well. And we can kind of work together with people in our community. And I think like without the kind of community around Melbourne, it probably would have been a lot harder to get this game going. Say.
It's definitely like a little bit of a it like drops the difficulty modifier down, right?
Yeah,
like it definitely helps out where you can just be like, oh shit, like I remember I needed a VO contract, a contract, and I just went straight to like Nick from Modern Storyteller, who did. I'm like, Nick runs a studio and was a lawyer, and his game is only VO, the Forgotten City, or that's the bulk of it, it's however many lines of VO, and of course he was just like, yeah, here you go, man, here's a template. And it was funny because he's like, look, I wouldn't, maybe use this verbatim because it's for our studio. And I was like, you're actually a lawyer. You can't say I'm not a lawyer. But no, it's a really great, resourceful community. But anyway, man, I know you got to run. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. Like I said, I really relish the opportunity to finally sit down and, dive into it.
So good.
It's been good, man. All right, well, have a great day.
Sweet. All right. Catch you later.
Cheers, Julian.